It's the Blue Blur's 34th anniversary today, and if you asked me to quickly answer why Sonic the Hedgehog is one of my all-time favourite characters in fiction, I'd probably squint my eyes as if deep in thought, dart my gaze around for a few seconds, and give you the straight answer of... I don't know. If you gave me more time to think about it, I would probably be able to come up with a more detailed answer. I'd tell you that Sonic is a bunch of different things. Mirroring his tendency to never stay put in one place for too long, he can be portrayed in a variety of ways, and depending on the fans you ask, these portrayals will still be Sonic to them. In one instance, he could be such a down-to-earth character helping someone through their life struggles, and in the next blink of an eye, he could be beating the lunch out of his enemies, talking smack about them, and not batting an eye. But as I recently thought more deeply about why I love Sonic's character, the more that it dawned on me that the answer may be why he has so many fans. I think that Sonic inspires us all to find true happiness. Before seeing what psychology and other Sonic fans have to say about this idea, we'll reminisce and analyse Sonic's character from different media to understand how he encourages and helps us get through life, and why he remains the light of hope for so many fans around the world. This is going to be a loaded video, so grab a snack and get comfy. Let's get started. First, we need to ask ourselves, is Sonic truly happy? And if so, how does he show this? To answer these is mostly up to interpretation, but I'll start explaining mine by saying that happiness means different things to different people, and there's no one-size-fits-all method to finding happiness. I think this perfectly aligns with Sonic's general outlook, since he doesn't really try to convince anyone that his way of life is the best method to truly become happy, and he doesn't try to thrust his ideals and way of thinking onto the people he meets on his adventures. He simply just shares his perspective. But while going on adventures, he's able to help other characters he meets to find their true happiness. I feel this is especially the case with the human characters, as they seem to reflect us and how we struggle with the challenges life throws at us. Though of course, as their respective Sonic media depict, Sonic is able to bring these characters out from their darkest times, and the examples of media we'll analyse today will hopefully be proof of this, starting with Helen's story from the 2003 anime Sonic X. I'm always on the verge of tears whenever I watch this episode. Not only is Helen's representation of those with disabilities encouraging people to really understand others' daily struggles, it also shows us just how much of a positive impact Sonic has and makes a core element of his character clear. He yearns for freedom, and if he has the chance to help someone who otherwise doesn't have the means to experience the joy he feels, then he'll take it. For context, because of Helen's disability, her parents, especially her father, have had to work relentlessly to be able to afford getting Helen the best medicine and doctors. But unfortunately, this is at the cost of not spending enough time with her. This dismays Helen, as she's desperate to go to the Island of Flowers with her family. She says she ordinarily would have gone herself if she could, and of course, knowing Sonic, he wasn't having it end like this. The two of them had quite the adventure on their way to see the flowers together, and Helen starts to trust Sonic's judgment more as they get further. She begins to be more open to dangerous stunts, and even though this is in line with what Sonic mainly wants for Helen, he makes sure to take good care of her and check up on her every now and again. It makes sense, given that earlier in the episode, his expressions showed how taken aback he was at the idea that Helen's disability could hinder her from ever really being happy. In other words, Sonic makes sure to do enough hand-holding, but also gives Helen the chance to spread her wings, which her parents later realize in the episode's Japanese version is more of what she needed in the first place. In the English dub, Helen's parents realize how she's filled with so much more life than they had ever seen from her before, and it's deeply moving to hear their discussion about it and how upset Helen's mother gets about not spending enough time with her. Ultimately, Sonic ends up helping Helen find the thrill in life that she's been missing, and he even helps her parents to realize that they're happiest when they're enjoying the beauty of life together as a family. They start to see things from Sonic's perspective, viewing that the true essence of living life is within each little moment, and that it's important to cherish every last second because we only live once before we die. This is more or less the same thing that Sonic teaches to Merlina in Sonic and the Black Knight, which I've mentioned before in a previous video, though I feel like the payoff in this game isn't as satisfying as here with Helen and her family. Seeing a little girl in a wheelchair being able to have the time of her life thanks to Sonic seems more relatable than a wizard realizing that she was wrong to try to make her kingdom eternal just because Sonic said so after defeating her. Now, I also just want to quickly mention how Sonic helps Chris and his parents, similarly to how he helped Helen's family. In the Japanese version of the anime, it's disclosed that Chris also had the problem of his parents being too busy to spend time with him when he was younger, causing him to feel lonely even when his parents would send him anything he wanted. They seemed too busy to even visit during holidays like Christmas, and this was detrimental to Chris's emotional well-being going forward, possibly explaining why he's portrayed as clingy and refuses to let Sonic return to his world in episode 51, fearing that once Sonic left, he would be alone again. But thankfully, after running away with Chris, Sonic indirectly helped the Thorndikes to realize that their son didn't want material possessions and instead wanted to be with his family. At the same time, Chris was able to admit he felt guilty about keeping Sonic from going home, but by eventually letting Sonic go back, and by admitting his guilt, Chris was finally able to be kinder not just to Sonic, but also to himself, thus allowing him to heal and find happiness with his parents. Let's now move on to the next human character that Sonic helps through their struggles.
Sonic, have you visited many wonderful places before?
Yeah.
Once you defeat Eggman, you'll leave, won't you? Though I've been frightened many times, I've also enjoyed this adventure. It allowed me to be something other than a princess. I was able to be myself. A girl.
It sounds like being a princess isn't that easy.
It isn't sometimes, but I love this country. Everyone in the castle, the children, all my citizens, really. The same love my late father and mother had.
Don't cry, Elise. Become a strong queen who doesn't cry, no matter what happens.
And so, I do my best to protect my country. I understand everything my parents said to me now. Sonic, if you leave here to go on another adventure, remember this place.
Definitely. Elise?
I'm fine. Sorry. I mustn't cry. I can't.
Elise? Smile.
In Sonic 06, Princess Elise is the monarch of a kingdom called Soliana. Within her soul, she houses Iblis, the flames of disaster, which can be released if she were ever to cry. This would cause the world to be engulfed in flames, so Elise's father, the Duke of Soliana, tells her that she's never allowed to cry to prevent the world's devastation. This unfortunately has put Elise in an unimaginably difficult situation. She's always put the happiness of her subjects and others first before her own, and she thinks that the fact that she protects her kingdom out of love is all she needs to be happy. Yet, this is what's stopping her from reaching her full potential. Through her adventure with Sonic, Elise learns to be more open to new experiences and to live in the moment where she can fully process all of her emotions, including negative ones. This is why she's able to cry during the scene by the lake without releasing Iblis, because her crying isn't entirely due to sadness at the fact Sonic will eventually leave, but it's also her expressing how much this adventure with Sonic has meant to her and how it's enabled her to live a more fulfilled life. Additionally, throughout the story, Sonic encourages Elise to smile whenever she becomes upset, and I think this is the case not because he wants Elise to ignore her negative emotions, but as a sign that she's beginning to fully open up to experiencing all aspects of life, including negative feelings. We'll break this idea down further with the following cutscene.
Look, Elise. This is Solaris, the flame of hope.
It's so beautiful.
When the flame has grown large enough, our world will change. Solaris will allow us to control time and move through history. People will be able to rectify past mistakes and avoid bitter fate.
Will we be able to see Mama?
Yes, Elise. We'll both be able to see your mother once again.
This is where everything began. Who knew such a tiny flame could bring such devastation? If we put out this flame, Solaris will never exist. And then we'll never have to worry about the flames of disaster, right? But our encounter... You and I will never meet. It will never have happened. To tell the truth, I don't care what happens to the world.
Elise, just smile.
The Duke in the flashback says that with the power of Solaris' flame, people can time travel and rectify past mistakes. But this doesn't really align with Sonic's philosophy, and I feel like it's a second more subtle reason as to why he agrees to Elise blowing out the flame. Outside of what the Duke said to Elise, Sonic already gathered that Solaris' power was linked to time, and thus could be used to travel to any point in the timeline. So after being through all that they had together, part of me feels like Sonic subconsciously wanted to see whether Elise would let go of the past to embrace her new life. A life where she's free to be herself and express her emotions however she wants, now that in the new timeline, she doesn't need to worry about releasing Iblis whenever she cries. I got the idea for this interpretation after remembering that just like the times before, Sonic encourages Elise to smile after realizing the weight of the implications here for their close bond with each other. She cries in outburst in this instance, admitting that she doesn't care about what happens to the world, and displaces the remaining unconscious tension that's built up, due to the restrictions surrounding her expression of negative emotions, specifically sadness. Emotions are a big part of life, the good and the bad. And similarly as he did with Helen, Sonic has inspired Elise to embrace the thrills of life. But more importantly, he's shown to Elise the importance of embracing the full spectrum of human emotions, because without some of the more lowest of the lows, we may never be able to enjoy the highest of the highs or meet our emotional needs completely. This is Elise's true happiness that Sonic has inspired her to achieve. The joy of being able to embrace all her emotions and arguably the part of herself that she had locked away for years. The final example of Sonic helping a human character that we'll analyze is quite profound, yet ends on a hopeful note.
Shahra! Can't you do something about it with your magic?
I'm sorry, Sonic. My magic is no match for that of the Eraser Djinn.
Okay then. Guess I'll just have to deal with him the old-fashioned way. And hey, don't look so glum, Shahra. I'll have you smiling by the end of this. And that's not me ordering you as your master. That's a promise from me to you.
Yes, all right.
All right! Let's do it!
A promise.
Sonic and the Secret Rings tells the story of Shahra, a genie from the Arabian Nights tales, enlisting the help of Sonic to defeat the Eraser Djinn, who sought to erase the stories from the book to gain overwhelming power as supreme ruler. This game has such subtle but emotional storytelling, and it's a shame that I don't see many people discussing it. The writers managed to weave in some heavy themes, including the portrayal of a toxic romantic relationship between Eraser and Shahra, and managed to show how Sonic acts as the mediator to help Shahra cut ties with Eraser in order to truly feel happy. The themes of love, heartbreak, and moving on in the first post-credit song, Worth a Chance, make it seem like Shahra wanted a romantic relationship to help her through the uncertainty of her future, and thought the Eraser Djinn would be the right person for her. In Sonic and the Secret Rings, there are quite a few references to Shahra's power as Genie of the Ring being inferior to that of Eraser, a Genie of the Lamp. And so maybe Shahra felt that if she had enough power acquired with Eraser's help, she would feel like she's in control of her life again. However, Shahra quickly realizes that Eraser only cared about gaining that power for himself, which is why she later opposes him with Sonic's support. But due to Shahra's overwhelming desire for affection from Eraser, she's still manipulated by him to collect the 7 world rings. This is a case of Eraser setting conditions of worth for Shahra. He makes her believe that by doing his bidding, she'll get the love that she rightly deserved in the first place. The harm that comes to Shahra is also evident when Eraser intends to punish her with the Judgment Flame when she first admits that she doesn't have the rings for him. She's implied to have been constantly put down for her failures by Eraser, and this does a number on her self-esteem when you consider that every time Sonic gets hurt or gets into trouble, etc., Shahra blames herself for everything happening to him, and apologizes on more than one occasion. But as the force for good that Sonic is, he reassures Shahra that she has nothing to be sorry for, and even through the promise he makes to her, vows to give her the unconditional positive regard, love, and happiness that every person deserves simply for existing. Even during the final defeat of the Eraser Djinn, Sonic gives Shahra the space she needs to grieve the ending of the relationship and loss of a person to whom she was heavily reliant.
My third wish! Eraser Djinn, you shall live out the rest of time trapped inside your lamp as you were in days of old! Oh!
Shahra, I know you're there. Please stop him. We can start over. The 2 of us. I swear it. The world is mine. I cannot be denied by that filthy rat. Why?
I told you, I'm not a rat. I'm a hedgehog. Shahra, will you grant me one more wish? I wish for a mountain of handkerchiefs. Now, just let yourself cry, as much as you need to. You'll have plenty of handkerchiefs to help you through it.
Sonic demonstrates that he understands the hardships Shahra is going through when letting go of her love for Eraser, and realizes that Shahra needs to process the reality that because of her desperation for approval from someone else, she was limiting her own self-worth. This is why Sonic wishes all these handkerchiefs for her, to allow her to cry and process all her sadness. Perhaps the true happiness that Sonic helped Shahra achieve was the self-acceptance of who she is, as she embarks on a journey of rediscovering her unconditional love for herself. So it's now time to bring these analyses together. I think that Sonic being able to help Helen, Chris, Elise, and Shahra find their true happiness is what makes himself feel truly happy. Of course, Sonic also helps other more prominent characters like Tails, Knuckles, and Amy, but as I alluded to earlier, seeing Sonic aiding these human characters through their battles makes it all the more clear why he's been able to be the light of hope for so many fans to this day. The human characters are so relatable, and whenever seeing them pull through in the end with Sonic's support, it's easy to see how his character traits and outlook on the world inspire us to pull through too. With the friendships Sonic has built with the human characters, he demonstrates a lot of different ways that psychologists have theorized are the keys to finding happiness, ways that don't conform to a one-size-fits-all approach. For example, take Carl Rogers, one of the pioneers of humanistic psychology, which views that all people are unique individuals with free will, different perspectives, and circumstances. Rogers advocated that we shouldn't focus on the negative connotations of mental illness, but rather focus on growing and reaching our full potential. In terms of finding one's true happiness, Rogers stressed that realizing this good life is a process, not a state of being, and to enjoy it, we need to be fully open to experience, live in the present moment, treat ourselves and others with unconditional positive regard, trust ourselves, and take responsibility for our choices. You can probably see how Sonic helping Elise embrace all her emotions is a pretty good indication of how he's showing he's open to any and all experiences. But the thing is, Sonic himself has also shown that he accepts his negative emotions too, not just positive ones. Instances of him enjoying positive emotions are pretty easy to come by, but here are two examples of him mainly turning towards the negative. Sonic feeds off the power of the fake Chaos Emeralds and the power of his anger concerning his friends getting hurt in Sonic X, in order to become Dark Sonic and enact his revenge on Black Narcissus. And of course, in Secret Rings, Sonic uses the world rings of sadness, rage, and hatred in his Darkspine form to defeat Eraser, since these are the emotions he feels after witnessing Shahra's death. As a consequence, it becomes easier for Sonic to find his most true and authentic self, the person he was always meant to be. Though he's only able to do this due to having unending amounts of bravery to face his inner, darker emotions, and it's very likely we just haven't seen all the instances of this happening on screen, since he's usually shown to be his same carefree and high-energy self. Now we'll dive deeper into how Sonic is able to fully be present in the moment. According to Rogers, we live in an ever-changing and fluid environment, yet we form constructs of how we think things should be, and mold ourselves and our preconceptions about reality around these constructs. This may make us feel like we're trapped and stuck in life, leading to dissatisfaction and feeling unhappy with ourselves. When the world sort of doesn't conform to our views of how it should be, we may feel unable to change our ideas, leading to what Rogers calls defensiveness, or unconsciously denying or distorting what's really happening in favor of our preconceived ideas, leading to a limited and artificial interpretation of experience. But we can avoid this by staying wholly present in the moment, taking things as they come, and making experience the starting point for our growth. Based on this, we could conclude that Sonic just does not care about the ways other people think things should be. Whenever his gut tells him that something's wrong, he jumps into action and doesn't even question himself as long as he's doing what he feels is right, regardless of whether it's deemed right by general consensus or not. And this also ties into him fully trusting himself, yet willing to take responsibility for his mistakes, like in the IDW Metal Virus arc, or admitting that he's deviating from the path that would paint him as the good guy, as seen in Black Knight when he's about to pull Caliburn out from his stone. Now, we've already considered the idea of Sonic treating others with unconditional positive regard in Secret Rings, so we're not going to go over that again. Instead, I'd like to say this. Rogers defines unconditional positive regard as the acceptance of an individual for who they are in essence. It's also a perspective grounded in compassion and recognition of an individual's potential, which makes me feel like we're so hard on ourselves sometimes, and we need to learn to give ourselves unconditional positive regard if we want to remain open to our experiences. Of course, when we look at how Sonic does this, he doesn't give any second thought to what other people think about him, in the sense that he's not forcefully trying to impress anyone in order to increase his self-esteem. It's more so the case that he does cool and amazing things, knowing the value he brings and that he could sweep anyone off their feet. I think now's the time to wrap up the discussion for today. Sonic is so awesome, and never in my life have I been so attached to a fictional character like this before, but he always knows how to pick us up when we're down. Lately in life, I've been trying to find the good in everything, and I aspire to love myself as much as Sonic does himself, and be able to be less anxious about small things. He inspires me to have courage, to try new things, and to value what I bring to the world. Pondering on this made me wonder how other Sonic fans are inspired by him to achieve their true happiness. So I took to social media and asked some folks how this goes for them. I'd like to showcase what they said as a nice endpoint for this video, and to show that whatever we're going through, we're not alone. On Twitter, Furious Pie says, "I guess Sonic just represents freedom. The will to love and to not just live but thrive in this world while leaving a positive impact on everyone and everything, even those wanting to take it away due to their own misfortune." Anaya says, "Sonic inspires me to achieve true happiness because he's the living incarnation of wind. Wind flows so freely even without a specific purpose, and that to me sounds like true happiness. Wherever the wind takes you is where you'll find your destination, even if you're uncertain." Valentine's Cookies says, "I think how Sonic inspires me to find true happiness is through his resilience. I have a lot of rough patches I go through, especially because of my disability. There's been so many times where I've wanted to give up all my treatment because of the energy it takes, and how hard it is to just push through daily. But Sonic's role in his own stories show how he keeps pushing, even after dying once. He gets up and does the right thing. I think what I take from that is, no matter how hard it is and how rough it can be, I can still do the right thing, to try, and I've been trying, and even if it's slow, I can only go up from here. If Sonic can do it no matter what, I guess I can too." Pina says, "Sonic is the only thing making me happy at this point. His adventures are always fun to see, and his character, as in personality, gives me a bit of hope, like a friend cheering you on." Sierra, Queen of Babylon, says, "Sonic and the Black Knight's ending legitimately changed me as a person when I first saw it. Sonic inspires happiness by always pushing others to be who they are, circumstances be damned. It's not that he's ignorant to the harsh realities of the world, he just doesn't let them get in the way of living life to its fullest. He sees our limited time on the planet as something to push yourself forward with, because without an ending, it wouldn't mean anything. If you can't control something, you might as well make the most of it. Robert Pearson says, Sonic inspires me to live and learn no matter how hard life is, and even if you don't always get what you want in life, you just have to keep going until you find something even better. And finally, Mandanchi Modomo says, Sonic's just simply one of the best examples of my favorite quote, belief in oneself is contagious. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll admit, this one was really tough to write the script for, with sudden shortages of inspiration and a bit of self-doubt creeping in. But reminding myself of why I started this in the first place kept me going, and I really wanted to contribute something special for Sonic's anniversary. So hopefully I've done the blue blur justice. If you enjoyed today's video, consider leaving a like, comment, and subscribe for more Sonic character analyses with added perspectives from psychology. I aim to bring about compassion and encourage understanding. Thanks again, everyone, and until next time, take care and have a good rest of your day or night.